Hello and welcome once again to the Cory Sauter Show here on Studio One. I'm Kelly Loft, Athletic Communications Director at Southwest Minnesota State University, as we talk Mustang football with the head coach of SMSU, Cory Sauter. And what a great weekend it was for Southwest Minnesota State as the Mustangs snapped their three-game losing streak, beating the Dragons from Minnesota State Moorhead by a score of 49-14. On this week's show, we'll take a look at those highlights and preview this upcoming week's game versus the St. Cloud State University Huskies. And joining us again on this week's show, obviously, is the head coach, Cory Sauter. The Mustangs coming off a great victory, 49-14 over the Dragons. And that was a great way to cap off a weekend, because since the last time we were on, some big news for you and your family. So it made it just a special weekend, that's for sure.
It sure was. Wasn't quite sure when our daughter was going to be born this fall. We weren't sure if we were going to be in Upper Iowa on the road or in St. Cloud, but it happened a week early, and it really turned out to work out for the best. She was born on Friday evening, and she was 7 pounds 6 ounces, 19 and a half inches long, and her name is Estella Noel.
That's awesome. Congratulations, both her and your wife Amy doing well.
Yep, they're both doing very well, and we're just excited to have another girl in the family.
Yeah, it's two of them now, yep. And she's 1-0 now into this world. A great win for the Mustangs on Saturday, and we'll talk more in depth about some of the plays that happened throughout. But a good way to get bounce back on track for you guys is to pick up a much-needed victory. And it started out a little bit slow, but once you got going, you really took it to the Dragons.
Well, it started out real slow. They went down the field pretty much with ease. They scored right away. For whatever reason, we're struggling on those first drives as a defense, giving up a lot of touchdowns on first drives of games. So didn't start out well. They started 7-0. We get the ball back, and first play offensively, we fumble the football, and that just can't happen. That's just something that we had some miscommunication with our back, which way the run play was going, and back went one way, our quarterback went the other way, and all of a sudden the ball's on the ground, and I'm looking at myself saying, what just happened? And they get the ball back, and it's almost like they had an opportunity really to go up 14-0 early in the game, and coming from the weekend's birth and everything, I was like, what just happened? Because I just feel like we're just out of place here, and we finally calmed down and got settled and started to regroup.
Yeah, a big interception by Kurt Gosser to end a drive. The Dragons had several chances in the red zone, taking advantage of some turnovers, as we mentioned, and of course some special teams play as well. But Kurt Gosser gets an interception, stops the drive, and then later on in the first quarter, you get a nice drive going, and he had an 80-yard drive. We had a couple of those in the contest, and even a 99-yard drive, but it was good just to get that score back to 7-7 and just kind of start fresh again late in the first quarter.
Well, absolutely, and it's always just tough just getting that first one in. Once you do that, and really after our first two drives, we were just struggling really bad, and we pulled the guys to the sideline, got after them a little bit, try to get their focus level where it needed to be, try to help them relax a little bit at the same time, and they responded very well. Just getting our run game going. That was something we talked about all week, is we're going to emphasize the run. That's an area where Moorhead really struggled this year, and we told the kids all week and before the game, we are going to stick with the run regardless. We're going to make them stop that first and then go from there, and give our guys credit, because they did get after it then in that second quarter. Yeah,
Mustangs racked up 580 yards of total offense in the contest, and your running attack was outstanding. Had some big runs, and it just shows the capability that your offense has, and your running backs, Gannon Moore and Warren Matthews, that they get open, and they could break some tackles, which they did, and then have that breakaway speed as well. And we'll see it later, but just a great run by Warren Matthews to put the Mustangs up 14-7.
Yeah, absolutely, and Warren's one of those big play type players who has tremendous speed. He's one of the fastest guys on our team, and just has a lot of ability. Now, one thing that we really emphasized during the week was just our finishing up front with our offensive line and our receivers. They're blocking down the field. And during practice all week, we would have the whistle to indicate the end of the play. Our receivers then would have to block for an additional 4 to 5 seconds after the whistle, just to really overemphasize the importance of blocking, to make those big plays happen. Because really in the run game, you're going to have the 4 to 5 yard runs, throughout the ball game. We didn't have really many big runs up to date as far as breaking out a long one, and a lot of that's on our receivers, because if they're caught looking back in the backfield and the defender gets off the block, again, it's only a 4 to 8 yard gain instead of a 20 yard gain, 40 yard gain, 80 yard gain. And I thought we made big strides this week in practice and ultimately in our game.
That touchdown by Matthews gave the Mustangs a 14-7 lead. It was a long touchdown run, as you mentioned, 69 yards. You got some other stops as well, not only defensively. It's a special teams. You blocked a field goal. Their place kicker also missed a couple. And they did get into the red zone a few times, but the defense was put in some tough spots, and they really came up with some big plays and forcing some turnovers and whatnot, or at least forcing the Dragons to punt and make them forced to kick a field goal.
Right, and I think that's one of the areas we've really improved the most on defensively is our red zone defense. They've been giving up some yards at times, but once teams get down the red zone, they've been able to hold teams to field goals, hold teams to miss field goals, and so they've been really stepping up their game. Now we've got to do a better job to keep them out of there to begin with, but they do fight all the way till the end, and that's good to see. And Coach Gunther does a pretty nice job as far as scheming things to try to take away their best players and their best schemes. We don't always execute it properly, but when we do, we're usually in pretty good position.
Yeah, the Mustangs again racking up 350 yards of rushing offense in the contest. Warren Matthews, a career-high 149 yards. He had 3 touchdowns in the game. Gannon Moore, 118 yards rushing. Those two combined for just 21 carries, so very good numbers for those two. And they're the first Mustang running backs in 3 years to have each rush for 100 yards in a single game. Other offensive numbers, Ryan Radican finished 14 of 23 for 207 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I thought in the last few weeks, probably played one of his better games. He had some balls that were dropped, probably a couple more touchdowns possibly as well, but some of the balls he threw, and not only throwing the football, but he was elusive as well on a few plays, getting away from the pressure in the pocket, and also some designed runs as well.
Right, and one thing that Ryan's been doing over the past several weeks is really protecting the football, not throwing the ball up for grabs. He did have the one interception, but he's been making very good decisions for the most part. He is elusive, and we kind of use that to our advantage. We had some design runs for him during the game, as well as Tyler Pashong. But even if we leave a guy unblocked, he has the ability to make a guy miss and still make a play down the field. Either with his legs or with the throw, and he's really playing pretty well right now. We've got to get our entire receiving core playing well. We've been pretty much spreading the ball around, finding different ways to get it to our tight ends, our backs, our slot receivers. He did have essentially two drop touchdown passes, so he could have had 5 on the night. But all in all, he's playing pretty well, and it definitely helps when he can run the football. It takes a lot of pressure off his shoulders, and it really opens up everything else. And that's why quarterbacks that play on running teams, that have successful running teams, are usually pretty efficient, because it makes that defense that much more susceptible to other plays.
You talked about spreading the ball around. Mustangs, 11 different players caught a pass in the ball game. That is, distributing the football, and you do run a lot of guys in at receiver and tight end and fullback, but it just shows that your quarterbacks, they don't just lock on one particular receiver, and there's a lot of guys that can make some plays.
Yeah, and when we design plays, we try to get our playmakers in position to make the play, but ultimately it's up to our quarterbacks to read the defense and make that decision. We don't ever predetermined throw to this guy or throw to this guy. It's all based on coverage, and if they give us a certain coverage, we're going to go to a certain receiver. If they play a different coverage, we're going to another receiver. So that's just part of that decision-making process that they have to go through each and every play. Once you predetermined, you're really leading yourself up to some interceptions as you go throughout the season.
Well, another thing that again, the numbers always work out well when you play good football and you win a football game. And we talked about the third down struggles that your squad has had the last month or so, but in this ball game, very good third down conversion. You look at the drives you sustained. 3 consecutive 80-yard drives in the first half to build a 28-7 halftime lead, and then you have a 99-yard drive as well, which kind of maybe that's the way to go. We get 99 yards and got a couple touchdown drives.
Maybe we just tell the other team we'll just place the ball on the 1 yard line and we'll just start from there.
But it was great to see to keep those drives going and just because it keeps your defense off the field as well, which keeps them rested. But I'm sure there had to be some confidence that was growing with this game on Saturday.
Well, it's one of those things. You get that first down, and then you get another one, and the guys really just start believing in what we're calling, believing in what the techniques that we're teaching them, and so they've really elevated their game, and it really goes back to last week's practice because all 3 days of preparation were really the best 3 in a row that we've had all year. And I hope that our players understand that that's going to allow us to have a chance on Saturdays. It doesn't mean we're going to win the game, if we have 3 great practices, but at least gives us a chance to be successful, and that's really what we talked with our players about is we need to maintain that. We've already set the standard now as far as the way we want to practice. Now we've got to go out and do it again next week against St. Cloud.
Well, on the defensive side of the football, a couple of Mustangs had game-high 9 tackles. Joe Stuka had 9 tackles, 6 solo stops, and Jason Fernholz, his first start of the season, he had 9 tackles, including a half a tackle for loss. And good to see Jason, a senior, 5th-year senior, come into the lineup. Nick DiCaniva, your leading tackler, did not play, missed a game with an injury, and good to see that you had that depth at linebacker, and Jason came in and did a nice job, along with Paul Mickey and John Kirschberger, the starting linebackers and backups, and Furno stepped in, and Tyree Dixon's played well in the last few weeks, so you're getting some of that depth that you need at linebacker.
Right, and within our defense, probably our linebackers is the most, the deepest position on our team, and even with DiCaniva, not being able to play, those backups are ready to go. They're eager to get out there and play. And it was nice to see those guys step up and do some things. They're different types of players. Obviously, DiCaniva is a quick, active type linebacker. Fernholz is a more physical, punishing type of linebacker, and he's always had to battle injuries over the years, and he continues to to this day. But he's a tough kid that's going to give you everything he has, and it was nice to see him have a very productive day.
One thing that was noticeable in the contest. A long kickoff return to begin the game by Minnesota State Moorhead, and Mike Wink's done a great job punting the football. He's had to fill in now as the kickoff specialist as well, but you made some adjustments, made some changes, kind of a pooch kick, and it really worked there for a while. It stopped the Dragons, and they were started off in the first half. Moorhead's average field position was about the 50-yard line. They had 3 drives starting in your territory, but that switched in the second half, and the special teams continued to improve as the game went on, and you really had some guys make some plays. You look at Tate Bunkers make a lot of special teams tackles, and those are key to, because again, it establishes so much more for your defense if you can hit them inside their own 30-yard line or so.
Absolutely, and the thing with defensive football is you kind of rely on the fact that offensively they're going to make a mistake at some point. Not convert a third down, get a penalty to force them in a long yardage situation. And so the more first downs you have to have that offense make, it's going to, the odds go for you. And so we did have to make some adjustments as far as our kickoff, and that's just an area we just have to get better at in general. We're not even near where we need to be. But I know Bunkers has played very well all year in that department. The guys that are on the kickoff coverage team really need to take pride in that group because it is such an important part of our special teams unit. And if we can get them back on the 20, 25, 30-yard line, even we're going to be in much better shape. And anytime you start the ball on the 50-yard line, you're going to be struggling defensively, just on average.
And Warren Matthews back at kicking, returning kickoffs, and did a nice job again. He just adds extra burst of speed, and we'll see it on the highlight here on one of his runs. But good to get him back there. He's one of the top kick return men in the conference, and now that he's healthy again, and good to have him back there. And also we saw Britt Wickett with some punt returns now, getting a chance and making some plays as well.
Yeah, and Warren Matthews is one of those special kids. You want him to touch the ball as much as possible because he has the ability to break it at any point, and so we're excited to have him, pretty much full strength as far as health. And Wickett, just a young kid, and he's got a lot of years left in him, and we're looking forward to having him getting better, each and every week, and as we push on to next year.
We are watching the Cory Sauter Show here on Studio One with the head coach Cory Sauter. I'm Kelly Loft, and again the Mustangs win 49-14 this past Saturday. SMSU now 3-3 overall and 2-3 in the NSIC. We've talked about the ball game. Now let's take a look at some of the highlights from this past Saturday's game at the Regional Event Center, and we start off with the defense. And here's Mark Schulmeyer with one of 3 sacks the Mustangs had here today.
Yeah, but he does a nice job of getting upfield. He's here up the top of the screen. A lot of times those defensive ends get beat around the top, and he just wrapped him up and made a big play.
Here's that red zone play. The Dragons trying to go up 14-zip, but a great job by Kurt Gosser. Turned around at the right time and got a big interception. His team leading third of the year.
Yep, he had his eyes in the backfield. Followed the ball off his hand and made a big play.
Mustangs now on the offensive side of the ball. Here's Brett Ballantyne after that interception. Gets big catch here for a first down.
Yeah, big third down conversion, and we had a nice design to really try to get him the football, and we get good protection here. Ryan's able to step into the throw. We've got a nice big hole into the inside.
And this keeps the drive alive, and now here is the continuing on. Here's Gannon Moore out of the backfield, and this play's worked for some long plays during the last few years, and the good coverage by the Dragons did limit to just to that catch.
Yeah.
But here's Nate Finke, first career touchdown.
Yeah, good to see him get in the end zone. He did a nice job of setting up that safety, getting up on his toes, and Ryan delivers a nice strike right down the middle over the linebacker.
A great throw by Radican. That was an 18-yard touchdown. Here's a blocked field goal for the Mustangs. Mark Schulmeyer blocks it, and the Mustangs keep the Dragons at 7 points. Now we go to the second quarter, and the 69-yard touchdown run by Warren Matthews. What a play.
Yeah, he breaks a couple tackles, makes a guy miss, and then once he gets in the open field, he's off to the races, and they're not going to catch him in that area. But you'll see from the end zone copy here just how shifty he is. Watch the safety down here coming down to try to make the tackle. He shakes him, he falls to the ground, and he's off and running.
That is an unbelievable cut, and that is a 69-yard run. That's his longest run as a Mustang. Mustangs go up there 14-7. Now on the defensive side, here's Levi Reef making a great tackle, one of the best safeties in the conference.
Yeah, he's done a heck of a job all year.
Here's Ryan Radican. We talk about his ability to run, and here's a design run, and a big gain for Ryan, the longest rush in his career.
Yep, we have to protect the football too with that. He saw the ball coming out. We got a lucky bounce.
And then Shane Ladegi with a reception across the middle, one of the favorite targets for Radican, and good to see him back in the lineup after missing last week.
Right, and again, we had really good protection all day, and Ryan stepped into the throw. Shane's a very dependable receiver for us and very explosive as well.
And here's a touchdown run by Warren Matthews, 3-yarder. Mustangs go up 21-7. Now back to the defensive side. Michael Moya had a big tackle for loss. Great way to just fight through the offensive line. He gets a tackle for loss, and then Robbie Slinkman with his team-leading 4th sack of the year. And then Esker Eo also with his first sack. Mustangs really put on a lot of pressure in this second quarter, and that got your offense going and was capped off by a touchdown pass here to Lester Lewis.
Yep, right before the half, a double move. Ryan signaled to him, and we got a big play out of it.
That's 28-7 halftime lead for the Mustangs. And now on the defensive side, a backup quarterback and John Kirschberger, and right there, Johnny on the spot with that pick.
Yep, Kirschbergen's hands are getting better every day, and makes another interception for us.
No pun intended there with the Johnny on the spot for John Kirschberger. And here's Gannon Moore, big run, nearly broke 3 here. This would have been something else if it could have gone the whole way, but longest run of Gannon's career.
Yeah, he's a tough back to bring down, and makes a nice cut here. And then the backside corner is the one that makes the play. But he's had a great game, and we expect him to continue to do that.
Cap it off here with a touchdown pass. Calvin Kosmiskis, his first career touchdown.
Yep, we kind of set it up and got a nice play action on the goal line.
And then there's Ryan Raddick, another long run. Just right up the middle, takes a big hit, but a strong kid. He keeps it going. Now we go to the fourth quarter, and another touchdown run for Matthews.
Yeah, Warren gets to the outside. They're expecting an inside run. We were able to bust it outside.
Not only can Ryan Raddick run, but so can Tyler Prashon. He scampers his way and acts like it's high school football over again.
Yeah, acts like he's Tebow.
Yeah, that's right. And then Phil Brado with the touchdown, his first of his career, to cap off the scoring. That was a 6-yard run, and the Mustangs go on to win the ball game 49-14. So a lot of exciting highlights in the contest, and a lot of guys got to play and make some big plays. So it was good to see in that contest as well. SMSU again 49-14. The victory at, again, 580 yards of offense for the Mustangs, and a couple of big rushing games for Warren Matthews and Gannon Moore. 149 for Matthews and 118 for Gannon Moore. And before we look ahead to the St. Cloud game, Coach, let's looking back at that Moorhead. What was it that you saw, you and your offensive staff, that you could run the football against these guys? Obviously, their stats, prove that teams could run the football. But what were some of the things that you noticed watching film that you could exploit in this ball game?
Well, one thing that they did is they played cover 2, and with that, their safeties played pretty deep. They were about 15 yards deep. Really weren't any position to make a play in the run game, and I thought our size up front, our offensive line versus the defensive line, really gave us the advantage. But they really didn't adjust a whole lot to try to stop the run, and if you're having success with something, there's no need to try to change it. And there really wasn't anything magical with that. We mixed in some of our drop back passing game with that, but we wanted to make sure we didn't take any unnecessary risks and really just do high percentage throws and continue to work on our run game.
Well, one thing you just talked about there, what the defense that Moorhead ran, and we talked last week about offense, what the quarterback sees and some of the calls that are made. Go to the defensive side, which obviously you were an offensive player through college and into professional football, but talk about some of the plays on defense. Fans hear about cover 2 or cover 3 or boundary, those type of things. Tell the fans and explain kind of what the difference are between that your quarterback's going to see and what the defense is trying to do, and because there are so many different plays, and they hear that a lot. Nickel and like I said, the cover 2, cover 3.
Terms,
talk about those.
Well, coverage-wise, there's a lot of times we break it down by the number of deep defenders there are. So if we say cover 2, that means there's 2 deep safeties. They both have half of the football field. Okay, with cover 2, a lot of times you're going to have 5 guys underneath playing the underneath coverage. So the corners, the outside guys, will have the flats. Okay, that's what we call the outside 5 to 10 yard area. You have the outside backers essentially taking the hook, curl area, and then the middle backer takes the hook area. So you really have 5 guys underneath, 2 guys deep. If we say cover 3, then you essentially have 3 deep defenders. So your corners now are playing deep thirds. Your free safety has a deep third, okay? And then you're only going to have 4 guys underneath. So they'll each have basically 2 areas they have to cover as far as the underneath defender. So an outside backer would have the curl flat area. The other outside backer would have the curl flat area, and then the inside backers would have the hook to curl area. So we're trying to just trying to isolate defenders, with that, and with that too, you can play man coverage. So if you do play man coverage, there's a couple different ways you can do it. One is having a free safety in the middle of the field, and one of the bonuses of having a free safety in the middle of the field is to take away the deep post. Okay, that's always the worry, the concern of most defensive coordinators. That's the quickest way to score, is just to run a post route, and so that's why a lot of guys like to have somebody in the middle of the field. So with a single high safety, you could play man coverage and bring a 4-man pressure, bring a 5-man pressure. If you bring a 4-man pressure, a lot of times you're just going to have a guy spying the quarterback or be a middle hole player looking for crossing routes. If they have a single high safety and they want to play man coverage, they can also bring 5 guys and try to create pressure. Okay, and then with that means everyone else is man-to-man coverage, and that's a little bit risky in the fact that, if a guy gets free, guy gets picked, then, there's really no one else left besides the free safety who's in the middle of the field, and that's a long ways to cover.
Well, and there's so many different, you hear certain how some defenses play, and it works for some, but there's always usually a weak spot in no matter what defense you play. And I think it comes down to, just like an offense, you want to get your best players to football. Same on the defensive side, is if you've got corners that can lock down and go man coverage, it does free up other players on that defensive side of the ball to maybe blitz a little bit more, or vice versa. If you've got a strong front four that can bring a lot of pressure without blitzing, then you don't have to blitz as much, and you can have better pass coverage, so to speak.
Yeah, every coverage, every defense has a strength, has a weakness. That's why they call it. There is no such thing as a defense that takes away everything, theoretically, and so. A lot of teams now are going to the zone blitzing, where they have, a deep middle defender. They have the corners playing zone coverage, and then they will bring a form of pressure, essentially bringing 5 guys, and then there will only be 3 guys playing underneath coverage. So they're vacating a zone depending, really banking on the fact that they're going to get pressure with the 5 guys that are coming. And so with every defense, those defenders need to understand what they're giving up and what they're trying to take away, because you can't take away every single route. If you're a corner and you're responsible for the deep third, you can't tackle a hitch route, consistently, because if you make that tackle, what's going to happen is they're going to do a double move on you and run a hitch and go, or something where they're going to try to get you out of position. So you have to trust the call. You can't try to make every single tackle, because if you do that, you're going to get caught at some point.
Well, it is very interesting, and just again, more insight. I thought it was just you man up and just tackle the guy. I didn't think it was that difficult, but I'm joking, of course, and just trying to let everybody know what goes into a defensive scheme and what the offense sees as well. And going ahead now to this week's game versus St. Cloud State, one of the hottest teams in the conference right now. Coach, they're 5-0 in the NSIC. They've won 5 straight. They're 5-1 overall, and receiving votes, they'd be about 28th in the country right now. But St. Cloud State, a big test coming up for the Mustangs. First time we've played them since 1984. And it's going to be a tall task, to say the least, but I'm sure this confidence will help, getting the victory to at least know, hey, we can go up there. We're a 500 team. Let's see if we can pull off the upset.
Yeah, it seems like every opponent we play every week, they're playing pretty well, and nothing changes this week with St. Cloud, and they've got arguably the best receiver in the conference, Fred Williams, and they've got a young quarterback that's very, very talented. They've got a big offensive line. I think one of their guys is 360 pounds. I mean, just unbelievable the size of their offensive line. Defensively, they're very stingy. They've been very good at creating turnovers. I think they're tied for first, or pretty close to the lead as far as turnovers. And so as a team, they're very tough to beat, because they only turn the ball over, I think, 4 times all year, and they're getting the ball for their offense. And they're going to be a tough team to beat on the road. They're playing real well. We're going to have to try to speed up that football game, because we can't play for an extended period of time and expect to take them out. So we're going to have to be smart. We're going to have to be very disciplined. We got to protect the football like we have in the past several weeks, and good things are going to happen. We're going to have to create a turnover in special teams or in our defense, and find a way to win this ball game.
Well, it should be a great task, obviously, but hopefully the Mustangs can get on top. It's 1 o'clock start in St. Cloud. It's the first of 2 road games for SMSU. They'll be at Upper Iowa the following Saturday before returning home to close out the month of October versus Winona State. So, Coach, congrats on the win. Also, the birth of your daughter, 2 children now. So, congrats to you and your wife, Amy. And again, the Mustangs win 49-14 over the Dragons this past Saturday at the Regional Event Center. Thanks for watching this week's edition of the Cory Sauter Show here at Studio One. For Cory Sauter, I'm Kelly Loft. Thanks for watching. Until next time, go Mustangs.